Hello parents, my name is DJ Hueneman. I'm the Director of Chastity Education here at Pregnancy Center East. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to watch this video. I realize that you probably have a lot going on and this is a big sacrifice for you. So thank you so much. And if you need proof that you've watched this video, all you need to do is just look underneath the video, follow the instructions there. There'll be a button you can click and that will give you all the information that you need. So thank you so much. You're watching this video because the In Control program will be coming to your school and we'll be speaking to your children about chastity. So the In Control program, we go to about 30 to 40 schools every year, schools, parishes, high schools, grade schools, and we talk to kids about chastity and the Catholic Church's teachings on human sexuality. Now, let me kind of ease your nerves a little bit if you have a younger child. This is not sex education, okay? This is religion class of what it means to be a human and how to integrate all the things with our maleness and our femaleness. How do we integrate those things into our lives and live a productive life, a healthy life? Before we get started, what is chastity? I'll give you a little brief overview. So chastity is the anti-slavery virtue, okay? It's the virtue that trains us in self-mastery. Because God gave us these sexual desires. He's created us male and female. Because these are good things. Sexual intercourse in itself is a good thing. But the culture, the devil, everything has twisted all this up and we've become very confused. And so what we aim to do with the In Control program is to kind of untangle all of that with the help of the Catholic Church's teachings, and of course with that great resource from St. John Paul II called The Theology of the Body. And so chastity is God's plan for our sexuality, and there are 6 parts to chastity. It'll look different based upon your age or your state in life. The way that we break it down here in the In Control program is we talk about the people that are not yet married. They would be saving sexual intercourse for marriage, not because sex is bad, but because sex is a good gift for marriage. Now the married people, chastity looks a little bit different for them. They are remaining faithful to their spouse with their actions and also with their thoughts and their imagination. And then not everyone gets married, so we have the priests and the religious, the sisters, right? The priesthood, the sisterhood, both of the hoods, right? Now, they don't have an earthly marriage. They do something called celibacy. So they'll take a vow of celibacy, and what that means for the priests, they will symbolically get married to the church. Now, not the building. I know what you're thinking. What, the building? They get married to the building? I knew that guy was weird. Okay. No, they don't get married to the building. They get married symbolically to us because we are the church, the people. And so they treat us the way that Jesus treats his bride, which is the church as well. He lays down his life for us, for our sakes, for our salvation, so that we can get to heaven. So if you see a priest, thank them. Now also for the sisters, for the nuns, they symbolically get married to Jesus. And so if you've ever seen a nun before, you'd be surprised. Some people have never seen a nun before. I was at this one high school and I was like, have you ever seen a nun before? And this one kid, he raised his hand and he goes, yeah, we saw a nun one time. Like we went on this field trip and we saw these nuns in their natural habitat. He was talking about them like they're zoo animals. I was like, dude, they're not animals, they're people. They live in a house. Wow. Okay, so if you've ever seen a nun before, check out their left hand and check out their ring finger, because a lot of times they actually wear wedding rings to show that they're symbolically married to Jesus. How cool is that? So we got the single people, we got the married people, we've got the other vocations within the church, and there's 6 parts to chastity. So the other 3 parts are modesty, so wearing clothing that points to our dignity, that doesn't reduce us simply to a collection of body parts to be used, but points to us as an entire whole person. I always tell kids to wear clothing that points to your soul. Now, how could clothing point to your soul? Well, if the eyes are the window to the soul, wear clothing that points and brings attention to your face so that people can see you and see your value and your dignity. And the reason that we cover our bodies to begin with is not because our bodies are bad. It's because our bodies are so good, and not everyone is worthy of the gift of our bodies. And so modesty helps us to protect our dignity, to protect our value. The next part of chastity is purity of our thoughts, our words, and our actions. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. And so when someone sees another person walking down the street, if they have purity of their thoughts, they can actually see God in that person. And that person becomes not a temptation to sin. That person becomes an opportunity to praise God. And the last part of chastity is to respect ourselves and others. So the 6 parts of chastity: saving sex for marriage, being faithful to your spouse, priest and religious, make a promise of celibacy, modesty, purity of your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and respect yourself and others. Those are the 6 parts of chastity. And it seems like a bunch of rules for a lot of people. So why would anyone even consider this virtue of chastity? Because it's difficult. It's really difficult, especially in the culture that we live in. So the reason that someone would say yes to chastity, the reason that celebrities would say yes to chastity. I'm thinking of Philip Rivers, the quarterback for the San Diego Chargers. Why would he say yes to chastity? He's a faithful Catholic, by the way. Or Tim Tebow, or Russell Wilson. They're all NFL quarterback, former NFL quarterbacks. Why would they say yes to chastity, even if they've had a past? Well, the motivation is love, right? Real authentic love. And so when we present the virtue of chastity, we always present it in the context of love. Because chastity is not a big no to sex, it's a big yes to love. And of course, when we define love, so many people think that love is just simply a feeling. I mean, feelings are fantastic, but love is more than that. Love, as Thomas Aquinas said, as St. Pope John Paul II said, love is to will the good of another. And we simplify that in the In Control program as love is doing what is best for the other person. Even if the feelings aren't there, still doing what is best for that person. And that's the real authentic love that our human heart longs for. And that is the reason, that is the motivation that we would rise to the demands of authentic love when we see it, and chastity is the way to rise to those demands. So I talked to a lot of parents over the past 5 years, and a lot of them are terrified to get this conversation started. Maybe they've never even heard of chastity. Maybe they have a lot of sins and stuff in their past, and they're terrified to feel like a hypocrite to talk about this. Let me ease your worries. You can talk about this. Okay, so let me give you, I'll give you 7 quick tips to help parents raise pure teens. So tip number 1, prayer. No, okay, whoa. Before you label me as some religious weirdo that has to say prayer, like of course they're going to say prayer, it's a Catholic place, okay. Prayer works. Let me give you an example from my life when prayer worked for me. It was pretty cool. I was working at the fire department, so I was a firefighter and a paramedic before becoming a chastity speaker. But I was really hesitant to quit the fire department and work full-time in ministry for the church. And so I prayed. And I prayed and I prayed. I prayed the rosary every day, asking God, begging God, please just tell me, what should I do? Should I quit the fire department? Should I quit the fire department and work full-time for the church? This is terrifying, God. What about my financial future? And I said, God, I'm an idiot. You need to spell it out clearly. You can't give me some vague signs. You need to have like someone come to my house and like hit me in the face with a 2x4 and tell me to quit the fire department and work full-time for the church. And so after a couple of weeks of praying like this, wouldn't you know it, that this woman that I've never met in my entire life, she's a saleswoman for a financial firm. She came to my house. One of the first things that she said to me, she said, "Oh, you work for the fire department? I heard you work for the fire department. That's fantastic. My husband used to work for the fire department, but he decided to quit the fire department and go work full-time for the church." The first thing that we should be doing for our children is to pray for them. That's the number 1 essential thing that we should be doing. Have the talk with God before you have the talk with your kids. One thing that we can do right now, even if you are extremely busy, is fasting. It doesn't have to be some crazy intense fasting where you give up an entire day's worth of food. In fact, it doesn't even have to be food. It can just be giving up something. So the whole idea with fasting is to give up some little healthy pleasure, like eating, entertainment, like a TV show or something. Just give that up and offer that as an intention for your children. I was going to have pop at the dinner tonight, but you know what? I'm going to have water instead of pop. I'm going to offer that as an intention for my children, for their future spouses, for their future vocations. It's just that simple. And so we should be doing this daily. But I encourage you to do it at least once a week where you give up some kind of food thing. But not only that, offer up our sufferings. I mean, let's be real, you as a parent, you've got a lot of suffering. Those mundane car rides where you're chauffeuring kids all over the place, you probably don't feel like doing that. You're probably tired. All these emotional things that parents deal with, especially moms, where you're constantly worrying about the safety of your child. Great, offer that up. Offer those sufferings up. Let me just read a quote from the Catechism. By his passion and death on the cross, Christ has given a new meaning to suffering. It can henceforth configure us to him and unite us with his redemptive passion. In other words, pain is a prayer. So suffer well. Suffer well. You know, Bishop Fulton Sheen says battlefields, hospitals, and homes are filled with thousands and thousands of cases of wasted pain. Wasted pain. Don't waste your sufferings. Frequent the sacraments, the sacrament of confession. Now, the sacrament of confession is incredibly terrifying for a lot of people. I fell away from the church after high school, and I didn't go to confession for over 9 years. The last time that I went was when they forced me to go in school. But the first time that I went back, I was terrified after 9 years. But it was an amazing experience. God is waiting there, just waiting with his abundant mercy for you. So go. And when you go as a family. Take your kids, take your spouse, take everyone with you. Go. I recommend going at least once a month. If we are practicing Catholics, we are required by canon law to go to confession and confess our mortal sins at least once a year. I know. So I encourage you, go to confession. And if you're nervous to go, you think you don't have any sins, if you bring your family with you, you can just ask them and they'll tell you all of your sins from the previous month. But go, and if you don't know how to go to confession, you can find information on this page that'll walk you through it step by step. If you are scared to go to the priest that you go to, don't be afraid. You know, you can go behind the curtain, but if you want to go to a different parish, you know, if that's where you want to start, that's fine. You can download an app called masstimes.org, or you can just go to the website masstimes.org. You can type in your zip code and it'll tell you all of the churches around you when they have confession. You can go 50 miles away if you want to. The most important thing is to go. Go to confession, receive those graces, don't let sin hold you back, and stop carrying around that big heavy load of sins that we have. It's exhausting. Get rid of it. God is waiting to take those sins from you. Very important prayer is the rosary. Now the rosary, some people think this is just an old, you know, like a tool for old grandmas to help cure their arthritis or something. No, the rosary, it's a powerful spiritual weapon. And men, if you're watching this, the rosary is incredibly manly. It's a weapon. You are able to conceal carry a weapon, right? Boom, right there in your pocket. I could go on and on about the power of prayer. I highly recommend utilizing silence if you're able to get silence in your life. I have a prayer journal that I use where I just simply talk to God and I will just write whatever's on my mind. Sometimes it's just gibberish, but that really does help for me. One of the greatest things that I can do though is I go to Eucharistic adoration. And that's where you just go to the chapel, you sit down, and if the Eucharist is exposed, you just stare at the Eucharist. You just waste time. Waste time. Spend time with Jesus. Because in order for any relationship to grow, you have to waste time together. Tip number 2, speak clearly and speak often. Now, a lot of parents are incredibly intimidated to even get this conversation started because they feel like their kids are not listening. They feel like they're not really a powerful influence in their child's life. So there's this organization called the National Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy, and every year they do an annual study where they hand out all these evaluations to teenagers. Here's a direct quote from them. They said, "One of the most consistent findings over the years has been the power of parental influence. Specifically, in survey after survey, teens say parents most influence their decisions about sex." So you win. You win, parents. You're the #1 influence, whether you know it or not. But hey, Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. They stole that from the gospel, you know that? And so you must have the courage to actually speak. And this is not just a one-time talk. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of talks. Little bite-sized pieces. Get what you can here and there. It doesn't have to be where you sit down at the dinner table, you stare at each other and you talk for 5 hours and everyone cries. It doesn't have to be like that. One woman told me, she said, "I utilize the car as much as I can." She says, "It's a great place because we don't have to make eye contact, me and my child. I know in the minivan that we can just look straight ahead, or maybe they're behind me and I can glance up a little bit up at the rear view mirror. I also know that I can time the conversations because I know from this stop sign to the house, it's about 2 minutes. And so I can just ask them questions, usually about their friends, and I can get a good idea of where they're coming from, what they know, and what they need help with, and that'll give me a good opportunity to get some conversations started about these difficult topics. Tip number 3, realize what is at stake. I hear parents say things like, well, I don't know if I'll talk to them about chastity and all that stuff, no big deal. This apathetic mindset, we have to nip that in the butt because there is a lot at stake. When Our Lady appeared at Fatima, she said that more souls go to hell because of sins of the flesh than any other sin. We want eternal life for our kids. We don't want them to be taken out by something as stupid as sins of the flesh or sexual sins. What else is at stake? Their emotional well-being. There was an article in the American Journal for Preventive Medicine, and they said to medical professionals, they said if a teenage girl comes into your medical practice and she checks the box saying that she is sexually active, that you must start preemptive screening for signs of depression in that teenage girl, because it's almost immediate. I saw another article that said depression, the new STD. You can imagine why a lot of these kids are suffering from depression when they're sexually active is because they've been misled by the culture, especially these young girls. They say, hey, in order for you to be loved, you must give your body away because that's the most important thing that you possess. And you give that away, then you'll earn some love. And we know it doesn't work out like that. And so they give away the gift of their sexuality, they fall into despair. I even remember one teenage girl coming up to me in a Catholic high school here in Cincinnati after a chastity talk, and she came up in the hallway, she snuck out, and she was just hysterically crying. And I was like, are you okay? What's going on? And she said, DJ, I want to share with you my story. I gave the gift of my sexuality away to this guy, and then he dumped me. And I fell into a deep, deep depression. So much so that I decided to end my life. And this girl went into vivid detail of how she tried to end her life. But she said, thankfully, the belt that I was trying to hang myself with broke. Now that girl, she's doing fine now. She's in counseling, but you saw what happened, right? You saw what happened. They believe the lie of the culture. It leads them into despair. So there's a lot at stake. Another thing that's at stake is STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. Back in 1976, we only knew of about a handful of STDs, and according to the Center for Disease Control, somebody who was sexually active, living in America, not married, in their 20s, if they were sexually active, they had about a 1 out of 32 chance of getting an STD. If we fast forward from 1976 to now, somebody in that exact same situation, sexually active, not married, living in America, in their 20s, they have a 1 out of 2 chance of contracting an STD. So it's gotten incredibly worse. We're living in an STD epidemic now. In fact, some of these STDs that were previously curable, like gonorrhea, have become resistant to treatment. We do STD testing here at the Pregnancy Center, and I'm surprised the number of times that it comes back positive. If you'd like to bring anyone into the Pregnancy Center, we do free STD testing for the bacterial STDs. It's a urine test, and they just leave a urine sample, and we'll contact them with the results once we get them back. It usually takes 1 to 2 business days. And everything at the Pregnancy Center is free and confidential. So there's a lot at stake. Let me just summarize. So according to the Center for Disease Control, they did a national examination of over 15,000 teenagers, and they found that sexually active teens are more likely to drink and drive, text and drive, carry a gun to them with school, be threatened by someone with a weapon, be in a physical fight with someone, be cyberbullied, be physically forced to have sexual intercourse, experience dating violence, feel sad or hopeless, attempt suicide, smoke cigarettes, smoke marijuana, use hallucinogenic drugs, use cocaine, use ecstasy, use heroin, use methamphetamines, use prescription drugs not prescribed to them, sell drugs, drink alcohol, get in a car with a drunk driver, not wear a seatbelt, and even not wear a bike helmet when riding their bike. Because sexuality involves body and soul. So there's a lot at stake. We must have this conversation. Tip number 4, take pornography seriously. The pornography industry, it's a huge industry. They make more money than all the NFL teams make per year, plus all the Major League Baseball teams make per year, plus all the NBA teams make per year. I mean, it's a huge industry, and they're financially driven, and so they do some really sneaky techniques to get their hooks in the next customer. A couple of sneaky things they do something called the domain name snatch game. So a domain name is a website name. And these websites usually don't own the names. They have to purchase them or rent them every year from a big site like GoDaddy.com. And if you forget to renew your domain name, anybody can purchase that name because it goes to public auction, and then they can immediately just put whatever they want on that website. So these porn companies, they just sit and they wait for someone to forget to renew their website name. And they'll buy these website names immediately and put pornography on it. You know, it happened a couple years ago up in Middletown, Ohio, to a soccer tournament website. They forgot to renew their website name. Somebody from Russia bought the name immediately, put pornography on it. You can imagine how surprised the parents were when they went on there trying to check Johnny's soccer schedule. Wow. It actually happened to a Boy Scout website a couple of years ago down in Virginia. They forgot to renew their website name. Somebody bought it, turned the Scout site into a smut site. I can even remember in grade school, when I was in grade school here in Cincinnati, at a Catholic grade school, there was a website called whitehouse.com. And the real website for the White House is actually whitehouse.gov. Well, somebody named Dan Parisi, an internet entrepreneur, purchased that name whitehouse.com, and he put pornography on it. And so all these kids, you know, myself included, my teacher included, everyone in the computer lab in a Catholic grade school all over the world were being exposed to porn. This guy, Dan, got letters from the White House, angry letters from the parents, cease and desist order from the White House telling him, take this down, you psycho. And he didn't. He kept it up there all the way up until the year 2004, reportedly because his own child was entering school and he did not want him to be exposed to porn. The porn companies also do something called mousetrapping, and that's where they use sophisticated software where if somebody goes onto a porn website and they try to click the X to get out of it, another window will pop up. And sometimes so many windows pop up you have to restart the entire computer or device to even exit the website. They use these banner ads that says, like, play this fun game, and a child clicks on it and it redirects them to a porn site. These porn websites are not above hacking websites. The Catholic radio station here in Cincinnati, Sacred Heart Radio, their mobile website was hacked a number of years ago by a pornography site. So this is not even to mention social media. You know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, these things, God love them, but they're not really regulated against pornography. And so, especially with Instagram in particular, if your child's profile is not set to private, then anyone can like their pictures and see their pictures. And so these pornographic websites set up these Instagram accounts and they go around and liking people's pictures. The kid sees, oh, someone liked my picture, who is it? And they click on it and it redirects them right to their porn site. And the average age of internet pornography exposure now is between 9 and 11 years old. And it's incredibly sad when this happens. The pornography that's out there today is more disgusting, vile, violent, and powerful than the pornography that was out there even a decade ago. Researchers are now comparing hardcore internet pornography to drugs like heroin and crack cocaine. Talking about pornography with our children, it's a difficult thing, so I want to give you guys some resources to get you started. This is called Wonderfully Made. Wonderfully Made Babies. This is a Catholic resource. Fantastic for getting the conversation started for very young kids, ages 9 and up. This one is called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. And then for the teenagers, ages 13 and up, we put together a book called Plunging Pornography. So you read this first, parents, and put it in the bathroom. And it has conversation starters in the back, additional resources to help you non-awkwardly get that conversation started. Because kids, they want to hear from you. And if they don't hear from you, they're going to learn from the internet. Because the internet does not hold back. Filter their computers, filter their smartphones, filter anything that has access to the internet. A very easy, quick way to do that is through a software called Covenant Eyes. They've offered us a free month trial, and so if you want to take advantage of that and just check that software out, it works for cell phones, it works for computers and other devices and tablets and things like that. You can filter what the kids see, but also it will send you, the parent, the internet history with YouTube and other apps. You can go and have the discussion with them about that. Tip number 5, avoid the rot of relativism. Now, moral relativism is the idea that there is no absolute truth. We can just make it up. We become essentially our own gods. And this is widespread in our culture right now. It's almost getting a little insane, a little crazy, the stuff that we're dealing with in our current culture. And Pope Benedict XVI, he nailed it right on the head. He said, quote, "We are living in a dictatorship of relativism." It's being shoved down our throats. There is absolute truth in this world. Take, for example, traffic. So I'm going to make up my own truth and say that red actually means go. And so they go, they're going to crash. Okay, so it's dumb. It doesn't make sense. St. John Paul II, he said, quote, "The greatest deception and deepest source of unhappiness is the illusion of finding life by excluding God, of finding freedom by excluding moral truths and personal responsibility." And so relativism, it makes us miserable. It makes us unhappy. I've gone to many schools over the past 5 years, and some of the schools are fantastic, but some of the schools, they let this moral relativity kind of creep in. So really be aware of what your kids are receiving. Again, I'm not trying to be an alarmist and all that thing, but it is your right as a parent because you are the #1 educator. The church says this over and over again. And I think they had it right. We're just a tool in your toolbox, parents, and that the school should be the exact same way. Tip number 6, connect with your child. The idea of being connected with your child is, of course, that we love our children, but do they have a sense that we like them? And so this involves finding certain characteristics of our child and specifically pointing them out and working extra hard, because it can be difficult with teenagers, to let them know that we not only love them, but we like them. You know, we want to be around them. We find characteristics in them that are fantastic. You know, like, hey, Johnny, wow, you know, your ability to just tie your shoes the way that you do, I mean, that's awesome, right? Even if you have to search for something to like about them, search for it, even if it's ridiculous. Dr. Magniker pulls out a lot of research from the Ad Health study, and that's one of the most comprehensive studies that's ever been done on teenagers. They interviewed over 90,000 7th through 12th grade kids, and they did home studies and all these things, and they found a major contributing factor to the kids making positive decisions was a sense of connectedness with their parents. Their parents wanted to be around them, they did activities with them, and the parents liked them. So work extra hard to connect with your kids. Connect them through physical touch as well. Healthy human touch. Kids are craving this. If you go outside of schools and you look, you're going to see kids, they're all over each other, right? They're always like, you know, jumping on each other, they're braiding each other's hair, they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and so they crave healthy human touch. One Catholic speaker, Jason Everett, he said, you know, he's spoken to over 1 million kids all over the world about chastity, and he said that he is firmly convinced that if a teenage girl does not receive healthy human touch within the home from her parents, she will look for it outside of the home from a teenage boy. Just giving them a hug or the little blessing on the forehead when they go to bed at night. Of course, they're going to squirm a little bit and be freaked out, but you know, I think after you leave, they're going to say, wow, why are mom and dad like that? Because they love me. And finally, it leads us to tip number 7, don't despair. So if you say, hey, DJ, I've done all these other 6 tips that you've given me and my kid's still falling away from the faith and they're falling into sexual sin and all these things, what do I do? Don't beat yourself up. The one thing that you've forgotten to do to this point is to factor in the free will. Think about God himself. God became flesh, Jesus Christ. And Jesus could not even convince everyone to follow him. Why? Because his kids had free will as well. So don't beat yourself up. Even Jesus Christ himself couldn't convert everyone, but continue to pray for your kids. Think about all these graces that you're amassing for them through your prayers. Think of them like a big giant water balloon that's just filling up. It's right above their head, just filled with grace. And all your kid needs to do is just take one little step up and just poke it. And they'll experience that rush of grace. So pray for your children that they can have softened hearts, that their hearts are not hardened. And if you have any questions at all, we are here for you at Pregnancy Center East. I am here personally for you. Give us a call. And again, if you watched this video and you need proof that you watched it, just click the link below. If you'd like more information about what we specifically teach for each grade level, you can find that information on this page as well. So I thank you so much. My name is DJ Hueneman for Pregnancy Center East. God bless.